My work is about my journey, and these last few years it's been more of an inward journey and looking a little more philosophical, perhaps spiritual than I had been. I think the older we get, the more aware of mortality we get, the more thoughtful perhaps we get. I've discovered going through this period of time that I'm not the same person I was when I was younger, and my attitudes have changed, and I have to get some things that I can hang my hat on. And so I have discovered one or two truths in my world. One is that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It's always there. It's immortal, kind of helpful when you're coming to this age of life. Another thing is that we're all one, not just humans, but we're one with all parts of the universe. The animals, the trees, the sun, the black holes, the galaxies. And once I realized that man and animal are one, I needed to rethink my sense of connection, and I needed to rethink my perspective on these things. It's not enough to look at the world from a human point of view, because we're part of a larger organization or organism that we need to respect on so many levels. And so when I learned that trees were communicating with one another, we're able to give sustenance to one another, we're able to warn each other when there was an attack coming from some kinds of bugs in the forest, I realized how complex methods of communication were. And I really needed to think more about that. In learning this about myself and about how we are all one in this kind of cosmic dance, I've had to rethink a lot of my ways of doing things, my ways of feeling about things, my ways of being connected to things. And this work responds to some of those thoughts. Thank you. When I started sketching images for the pieces for this exhibit, I was coming out of a long period of deep freeze. My imagery was simple, straightforward. Initially it lacked subtlety, but it began to evolve as I pulled sheets of glass from the shelves and gathered a palette of colors of frit. As I worked cutting and layering, my ideas of the autumn equinox became more personal and more intimate. And my interest in microscopic images of cell structures and optical mineralogy led me to want to create a moon surface with a variety of textures and craters. I decided to experiment with mica and frits to create an uneven surface that would have embedded layers of material and perhaps some interesting air pockets bursting to create craters. I fired the piece about 5 times before I was pleased with the slightly irregular crescent and the myriad of small bubbles and larger openings into the layers below. It's an experimental piece and may be unstable. Time will tell. My second piece came to me as a full-blown landscape. Nothing I was ever aware of seeing in the daylight. A gestalt, a dream picture from a place that bypasses human language, just as images, emotions, feelings, no words or label that can carry so much baggage. This is a direct link with my subconscious or my unconscious talking to me. A gestalt is more important than its parts, but every part is me. I am the roof, the clouds, the waning moon. This is a self-portrait, and to understand what I'm telling myself, I need to center and sit with it. I need to trust the process. For months of lockdown with the COVID, nothing called me to my studio, to my creative spirit. I was frozen, rigid like the dark roof in the small house, locked inside, safe, but frozen. I don't know where the clouds came from, but I know their white contrast helped me as they opened the darkness in the sky. And the waning crescent of the September equinox is a reminder that moving towards balance is always a goal. These morphing figures began to appear in my work several years ago. While outwardly these beings are often whimsical, they embrace philosophical and spiritual ideas that I'm working on in connection with my personal relationship with the universe. Perhaps I'm less vulnerable in sharing these ideas through the context that viewers see as not serious, as my personal belief system is not necessarily parallel to that of the rest of the world, but it works for me. As I said earlier, I believe all is one. Man and animal are one, connected. But it goes further than just seeing the world from the point of view not centered on humanity. And this theme of equinox, with its focus on balance, has been a good vehicle for my musings about my place, our place in the universe. This owl is a feminine spirit of the harvest. She wears on her dress the symbols of the elements: earth, water, air, and fire. She's aware of the shifts and compensations needed to preserve the larger layers of balance. Here she sports the rich colors of the autumn harvest, of the leaves that turn and finish their yearly cycle. While the body of the owl's rich brown reminds us of the earth's capacity to store and release nutrients throughout the year, to cradle and support the seeds that will sprout in spring. This waning owl spirit, the harvest spirit, emblematic of plenty, is losing power as the earth moves toward winter, at once celebrating fall's abundance and the coming of winter. Moon spirit is the symbol of the vernal equinox, spring. Once again, night and day are equal. The earth has tilted on its axis, and her body suggests the abundance of new growth and the explosion of light and color that marks the rebirth of the land and the progression of summer, balancing autumn's slide into the winter's darkness. The third figure is a bird-like sky spirit who has long been associated with the cycles of life and death. Many cultures see the flight of the bird as a concrete as well as spiritual connector of heaven to earth, the ability to cross the thresholds between levels of awareness. My bird figures are often elements of transformation, morphing from animal to human or human to animal. Really one reality, as all is one. A balancing of what we think of as human nature with the larger, more cosmic consciousness of all nature, decentering a narrow point of view, leading us to a more balanced notion of our place in the universe. The equinox is one of those reminders of that balance.